Fine time. Fine time. Fine time.
Hello, party people, party persons. It's not Andre, obviously. It's Steve. Woohoo! Let's go. And he's here with Kevin. That's right. It's more blackmail time with Steve and Kevin. Woo!
Is that what this is? I don't know. I'm a little bit nervous off the bat because I'm sure Andre said something about copyright infringement last time I used party people. Are we allowed to do that now?
You know what they say. Don't ask permission, blah, blah, blah. Anyway.
We've been doing this for over 2 years now, so I feel like we've got a seniority to use trademarked fine time phrases.
Hello, listeners. Is that better, Andre?
Yeah.
Anyway, we've been teasing and we've been saying it outright, but guys, if you downloaded this is the post-game, during the game, all the game, Super Mario RPG game remake show. So if you wanted to play this, or you haven't, or you just don't care, maybe go pause this and play it and then come back later because spoilers ahoy sometime after this.
And you gotta play the Super Nintendo and Switch versions.
Maybe just the one they can actually get to right now will be fine.
Okay. Fine. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting one because when you say post game, we're well over, I guess, over 25 years and also a couple months.
I know, but some people, they're like, oh no, I got spoiled in a Mario RPG. The princess got kidnapped. That's spoilers, man. You can't just say that on the internet.
I don't think those people are listening to Fine Time. It's okay. You're all good. You're all good boys and girls. Yeah,
but speaking of being good boys and girls, I feel like we must have been really good boys because back in June when this ended, I honestly, in that direct, I honestly thought we were just they had the, original boot up intro thing. I'm like, okay, this is just going to be the Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars game is going to be available on Super Nintendo Entertainment System, Nintendo Switch Online after the presentation. But then they switched it over to what we know now, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I didn't have that on my bingo card at all.
Well, Square and Nintendo have been having their best relationship since the Super Nintendo, so I figured something might have happened, even if it was just them slapping it on the app, but I was not expecting this at all. Even right at the end of the trailer, like, it's coming November. Prepare your ass. It's coming. It's like, wait, what? Okay. throw money at the screen. Got it.
Well, maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves. Should we go back in time and talk about what little Kevin and little Steve thought about this?
Well, sure. I had my Nintendo Power subscription back in 1996 and 95, I guess. And, fancy computer graphic things said, I want this game, even though I wasn't entirely sure what an RPG was necessarily at the time. And I got it in 1996 after renting it a bunch that summer. I've talked about this with Andre before, but there was something weird about renting carts with saved games on them. Because, odds were you were never going to finish them in the 2 some odd days you had them. So I got really good at flying through to Moleville after a while. And also my summertime constrained ass at 9 years old-ish wasn't good at solving puzzles as it was today, so I never beat this ship until I owned the game proper. I'm embarrassed of myself in retrospect because of, how many other times I've beaten the game now and all that. But what about you, Kevin?
Yeah, this was very much a Nintendo Power fueled game for me as well. I didn't even have Nintendo Power at the time this was released. It would have been shortly after that, but it was definitely it was a mainstay in like Epic Center, and I feel like they were quite often talking about it. There was always a lot of Mario RPG art that showed up in the Player's Pulse envelope art. So I was definitely well aware of it, mostly out of Nintendo Power. And I didn't get this until early 1998. So we're probably almost a year and a half after release. And I know it was 1998 because I also got Disney's Hercules on VHS for my birthday that year. So those two are eternally tied together. And it was kind of interesting. I remember at that birthday, I got it from my grandma, although my parents were the ones that had to hunt it down because apparently it was very hard to find, which is a little bit surprising. They had to buy it at a secondhand game store, and there was no new copies available at that point in early 1998, which seems a little, obviously they were prioritizing Nintendo 64 on shelf space at that point, but I would have still thought that Mario RPG would have still been, it was a fairly high profile game. So in early 1998, do you have any insight as to why nobody could find this?
I think it might have had to do with the first Nintendo Square falling out, but I don't know. It was just a weird time back when consoles didn't just end. Well, they really still don't. Nintendo was always kind of just from N64 on during their last year until now, as we brought up, where it looks like Switch is finally going to have a good last year here. But they tried to prop up Super Nintendo for another year and a half here, and you might remember, I don't know how prevalent it was in Canada, the second Super Nintendo console, the remodel. And it was weird because here, anyway, it would be bundled with, I went over this with the Poke Pals because I remember the box having Mario RPG renders of Mario and Yoshi on the back and the front, but much like you, I never after 96, I couldn't find Mario RPG in the store, at least not in your common suspects. And while there were a lot of bundles, it felt like every store had its own bundle. Like you had to go to Target to get Link to the Past, or you had to go to another store to get Super Mario World, and another store had Tetris Attack, and another store had Kirby Superstar. And so if you asked some kid in 1997, I got a Super Nintendo and it came with this, said, you're full of shit. It really came with it. Well, the answer is, guys, you're all right. It was fucked up for that 97 to 98 time span.
that must have been it, because I remember, I feel like well into that era, I remember seeing like Yoshi's Island and the later Donkey Kong Country games. You know what? Zombies Ate My Neighbors seems like I remember seeing that well after release. I feel like that one just was eternally available for some reason. Maybe it was just weird Canadian stores that didn't know how to clear out stock.
Well, there's that other. I forget who the exact name right now, and it's going to come to me as soon as we finish recording, where they got the rights to republish a bunch of third-party titles, and they cut costs by making the carts themselves and reprinting the manuals in black and white. So you'd have things like Zombies Ate My Neighbors and Castlevania, and Majesco did this. Like they were officially licensed, but they're like, we don't want to officially, you could. Look, you have the license, just don't fuck it up too much, because they were doing Sega Genesis 3 around the same time. So
right, everything
came in the cheaper cardboard boxes, the black and white manuals, even on Super NES, and the shoddier carts, but they were all above board technically. It was a weird time till 99-ish.
Kind of the Wild West back when we were little kids.
It's like, look, it's either this or playing Mario 64 again and again. What are you going to do? Wait till the end of 1998 for Zelda? I don't know, kids.
Well, wasn't for me too. I want to talk about the aesthetic a little bit. It definitely wasn't just Nintendo Power, because I was always initially really drawn, both like the in-game graphics and the cover promo art. I really felt like that kind of short and squished, slightly bug-eyed aesthetic for Mario was really working for me.
See, I always thought that was a nice contrast to what Donkey Kong Country was doing. Like, it's semi-realistic, except not really, but we got these palm trees, and Donkey Kong's a real gorilla now, and he's got a tie. But Mario was still allowed to be a bit more goofy looking, especially with all these other goofy looking characters, especially all the ones they had to invent. Well, not had to, but thankfully they did. Like you had the usual rogues gallery of Mario enemies we knew at the time, but suddenly here's a carrot guy. and two guys holding some radishes. and some other guy with a fork. Oh no. Head for the hills. And my 9-year-old said, this is fine. This is good.
That's a good segue to something else I wanted to talk about too, just that character design, because I felt like the protagonists especially, they never felt cheap and out of place. Gino and Malo were it was easy for me to accept them in my heart as Mario canon, and the enemies, especially the bosses, I felt like had really solid design. Specifically, my favorites were kind of Booster and Bowyer and Euridovich and Exor, and I really appreciated, even at the time, that they let Square, they could utilize the Mario universe, but they really had the flexibility to make Mario RPG its own thing. And I don't think it would have endured as well if it was just something that had to strictly align with the pre-existing Mario universe and whatever the version of their Mario style guide was at that point. Even, I mean, I think it's, and let me know if I'm wrong, I think this is the first time that I knew of that they let Bowser, kind of be one of the good guys, and especially letting them do that in a third-party game is a little interesting.
Well, yeah, Bowser was allowed to go-karting a few years before that, of course. But, this was the first time we got to play as Bowser in a, not traditional, obviously, but, he in a more protagonist-type role. This wouldn't be the case for Peach or Toadstool, because obviously Mario 2 happened. Mm-hmm. And I love how we all conveniently forget that every time we let Peach do something. We got Princess Peach Showtime coming in March, like, it's about time we let her do something, and I gotta go, and I have to be like, but you guys, she's done. You know what? Never mind. You know what? Sure, you be stupid in the corner. It's fine.
There was a lot of that during the Mario movie too.
They should make a game where you could play as Peach.
Yeah,
but
finally they let Peach have her time. Mario now. Oh, do you think Mario Kart though? I think Bowser was still a bad guy. I don't know that they even let him kart with them. I don't think they got together and they said we can accept Bowser into our karting inner circle.
Well, he brought a Troopa with him too, so I don't know if that was like legitimacy or just look. We need 2 more, and then they show like, fine, this is fine. We have to credit Mario RPG for this kind of being the first instance of a goofier, softer side of Bowser. Because I feel like before this point, he was just more, I'm the bad guy, I kidnapped the princess. Rah! But here, we see him trying to rally the troops. He wants his castle back. He cries a little. He's got that soft side before he has Junior around, that... we have like elements of Sunshine Bowser before there was Sunshine, I feel like, here.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting thought. I never really thought of it that way. And we kind of seen that continue on into Paper Mario, like the more humorous Bowser. Do you think that never would have been a thing? Even up to the Mario movie again, that was would Jack Black have been Bowser if we didn't have Mario RPG 25 years before?
I'm of the opinion where we would have gotten here eventually, but it might have taken longer. Someone needed to take that first step. And like you said, Nintendo trusted Square. Square was, king of the RPGs at the time, especially mostly on Super Nintendo at this time. So they're like, yeah, we're going to pretty much trust anything you do. So, and they did.
Yeah. Do you how much and maybe you know some more of the backstory than I do. How much leeway do you think Nintendo gave Square to just kind of go on their own, or do you think they had the ability to keep a real close eye on their IP while this was getting developed?
Man, I don't know anymore, because I feel like I read that Miyamoto was there every step of the way, but then you also read years later that with Sticker Star, he also came in and said, you know what? We're not allowed to have fun with Mario anymore. Get rid of the guys with funny hats. Get rid of the other ones that... I don't like these OCs at all. Mario is just supposed to be Mario, and I don't even know why Mario has a story. And then we had the dark times. And those were some dark times, Kevin.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, even like in the Super Nintendo era, Square definitely had the swagger that if they were going to take that on, I don't know if there had to be some element of Nintendo feeling like, they can only overstep their boundaries so much.
Like, I like to believe that, that there's the whole, look, Mario needs to be able to jump, but after that, we trust your judgment. That's what feels like what happened here.
Yeah, maybe it's everybody assumes that Final Fantasy VII being on PS1 was what really caused the falling out there, but maybe it was just tensions during Mario RPG. Who knows? Before we move on to modern Mario RPG, we got to talk about the music from the original, because again, I'm just that they gave Square the ability to go out on their own. I'm so glad that this just wasn't a bunch of retrofitted Mario themes here, and I really felt like they nailed the tone of the game, and it doesn't just feel like it's a bunch of music that was left on the cutting room table from Final Fantasy VI. There's some bangers on this game. I love the Forest Maze theme. That like funky like countryish song that plays when you're on the railroad course. The Nimbus Castle theme is pretty like trippy sounding, and the factory theme. Also, I fucking love how when you're in Booster's Tower halfway up, they completely change the music, and it goes from sound, this kind of like creepy like classical tune to something much more aggressive and morbid. I just think that's such a nice touch that they even they'll have like multiple themes for the same location.
Booster just slides into on this train. I am Booster, this is my tower, and suddenly the music changes. And it's very poignant now, because music for then and now is done by I'm always going to fuck this up. Yoko Shimomura? Fuck it. Sorry. But as me and Andre went over, she also did music for Live Alive. That was these two were like her first games for Square Enix, and that she nailed it then, and then came back to do it again freelance to come back and say, you know what, I think I did okay with the Super Nintendo chip, but I think I could do this way better. Knowing what I know now is just incredible. Because I didn't think we could top any of all those tracks, but I feel like she did all the way. There is the option to swap back to the original too. I don't know if that was a flex or something they felt like they needed to add in, but I don't. Did you feel the need to flip back and forth between the?
I did occasionally. Actually, the one time when I found that really interesting in the Nimbus Castle, there's like I never realized that there's that part of the audio that's actually like a giggle. That's what it's supposed to be. I never picked that up as being a giggle in the original, but it's very clearly is. So it was interesting to go and listen to those two in contrast.
It's the anime laugh me and Andre like to point out in other shows.
Did you know that was a laugh when you first played that as a kid?
On my TV, probably not. But as I went on, I'm like, oh god, I think it's just supposed to be her laughing on a loop again and again, and it just became. She really piped it in there on this version. I'm like, okay, oh god, she knows, she knows what we know.
Well, I guess we're there. We're segueing into modern Mario RPG. Do you want to start with this, or should I?
Yeah, why don't you take us on?
Okay, I'll be the bad guy, and I don't want it to come off like this, because I think maybe you took this as I didn't like this game. I've very much enjoyed it, and I think it's impossible not to, because the game that it's built around is so incredibly solid. But I the entire time I was playing it, I was questioning, and I never got to a point where I stopped questioning. Am I enjoying this any more than I would be if I was just replaying the Super Nintendo version? And that's not really a criticism, because I don't think there was really any other way to do this game. They couldn't try to do some sort of HD 2D thing with this and create that aesthetic with updated pixel art. It wouldn't have made any sense. They stayed true to the aesthetic of that game with, we talked about kind of the shortened proportions and buggy eyes. You can very much tell what it's, that it's based off that same art. The updated music was great. I just don't know that if this really, really added anything for me. And I think I actually prefer I do. I prefer the aesthetic of the pixel art to the new graphics. So I don't know if this is just Kevin has a nostalgia issue problem, as I think has come up before. But I think if I ever was going to play this game, I would gravitate towards the Super Nintendo version again. So feel free to tell me why I'm extremely wrong.
I don't know if you're wrong. I think you're a little weird because the steps you would need to take to play the Super Nintendo version just feel off. Because you know us, we like to talk about how games are talked about in relevance to whatever else. Yes, I could just load everything onto a Raspberry Pi and load it onto my phone and play things that way, but we have things to play in more culturally relevant ways right now, and I feel like that's a little bit what I'm getting to. We like to keep pointing out too that games are a business, and I'm sure a lot of considerations were made to doing this versus, like I mentioned earlier, the Super Mario RPG game is now available on Super Nintendo Entertainment System, Nintendo Switch Online. So did I enjoy it more? It's possible I've been blinded by the new paint job, or the music, or even the handful of, I mean, I wouldn't call them quality of life because, nothing was ever too much of a slog to play, but I did like some of the new bells and whistles that came in, like... I was, having fun at first looking at cutscenes and things, but then Malo showed up and he already knows Mind Peak, already a name change that was like, okay, I get we can't call it Psychopath anymore, but okay, I get it, it's cute, Mind Peak. And then the bestiary opened, and then I'm sitting there going, oh, well, look at this shit I can do now. I could sit here and try and figure out the drops and then read the minds of everybody. Well, I got some shit to do. It's gonna take me a while. I guess what's new isn't a whole lot, but I was here for it after playing it like more times than I can count on Super NES.
Yeah, and I think it was nice for me to do something different rather than just replaying the Super Nintendo version. And I realize I'm also definitely an outlier. I've got an original Super Nintendo hooked up to a tube TV, and I know that 99.9% of people are not stupid enough to have a 200-pound TV in their house that's antiquated and possibly going to cause a fire. And even as far as the graphics, like my son, he's 9. To him, like anything he doesn't appreciate that in the same way that I do. To him, that just makes a game look old. And, again, maybe that's just a nostalgia thing. I can really appreciate that pixel art, but maybe that's just because I grew up with it. I can almost guarantee if I asked him which of these objectively looks better, he would say, like, hands down, easily, no contest to the new version. So that's fair. And again, I know, we'll get, I guess, to a lot of the additions that they added to this version, but just simply as far as the replay and just, I guess, really looking at aesthetics, yeah, to me, I think I would just genuinely rather look at the original, but I get that, again, that I'm an outlier and why everybody would not feel the same.
It's funny you bring up your son in this, because I feel like your son would be more thrown by isometrics, which is how everyone tried to cheat and make games look better than they were back in the day, because I feel like no kid would fall for that today. Like when we were all about that in the 90s, like, it's in 3D. When someone smarter like Andre would have walked over and be like, it's in isometrics. Why are you falling for this shit? And he would have been right, but I would have been 9 and not given a shit.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I definitely, to me, that was a graphical improvement on its own. It was in 3D, goddammit.
And look, considering what they had to work with and what they turned it into, I think they did an amazing job, because I know a lot of people said in the whole wake of HD 2D, man, imagine Mario RPG looking this way. I'm like, I don't know. You get all those models and you uprest. I don't know, you guys.
Yeah, I don't think that would have translated well. HD 2D is meant for a certain thing, and it's not this like bright, sunny, everything looks very rounded pixel art.
I've got a long list of things I want in HD 2D, and none of them were Mario RPG.
I think, and eventually at some point while we're doing this, we are going to have to address Andre, because to him, he hates the aesthetic of the original. And I think a lot of it is, the proportions of the characters. What the way the kids nowadays would phrase it is it looks cursed. Is there, and until I had met him, the thought of this not being like one of the most exceptional looking Super Nintendo games had never even occurred to me. Is there like, can you see where he's coming from? Is there some validity to that cursed standpoint?
If you look at the original models, as a older person, I might have felt uncomfortable, but those are older models as a concept, and they had to shrink those down to be what we saw on the Super Nintendo in the 90s. So in that way, I don't think it's cursed, but I don't know. If I was 18 and I saw those models, like the big models in Nintendo Power, I'd be like, I don't know, guys. Maybe I would have been that way. I don't know.
I have a hard time, even just like looking at that model art. To me, it always looked good. But you're also right. Maybe it is an age thing because he probably was fucking 18 when this came out. He's old as balls.
Oh, I don't know if he's that old, but he was also like, no, I'm not playing Super Mario RPG. I'm gonna play Battle Arena Toshinden, the best 3D fighting game the PlayStation has to offer.
All right, should we dig into the added content here? Because I think this is really where you might want to tell me to shut the fuck up a little bit. Just let me start here because I'm gonna sit here and whine a little bit. So let's start with the group special attacks. I thought that was great, actually, because they didn't really alter combat in a major way. They didn't make anything significantly easier. And I don't think that you want to fuck with the combat system too much. Checking out all of the animations for everyone was fun. It was an interesting addition. It didn't break anything. So I thought that was good. It wasn't a make or break feature to me. The post-game content, first of all, I've never, and not saying that this is a boss rush mode, it's not, but I've never liked the boss rush thing. I've never liked just sitting and consecutively doing bosses. I get what they were going for here, but that part of the post-game content really is just consecutive boss fights. I did Bellome, I did Punchinello, I found them both very tedious. I got to Booster, and I felt like that was also going to be tedious. I tried it maybe 3 times. There's a lot of insta-kill that felt very random, and it felt like a major slog. Now, I don't know at this point, too. I certainly... this is a fairly easy game to begin with. I never grinded. I wasn't super high level when I finished the game. It did make me wonder if I'm just not figuring out the strategy that they wanted me to use that fight properly, or if they actually do want you to go back and grind a bit to be able to get through these final bosses, which I was certainly not prepared to do. So I threw in the towel on this consciously. I fully intended, because honestly, when I bought this game, that was kind of the prize. I want to play the post-game content. I want to get something in addition to what the original game had. And I was quite disappointed in just these like kind of updated boss fights with new mechanics that they've added in for each of these bosses or new hooks or whatever. So yeah, okay, why am I wrong?
Well, let's back up. We should have mentioned this at the top, but the developers for this remake were Artepiazza. Who are they? Square Enix contracts them a lot to remake Dragon Quest games fairly regularly. They'll remake or remaster or whatever your base game is and try to seamlessly integrate whatever's new. So even with the triple attacks, you remember how they introduced that? You're doing Boyer's fight as is, and then all of a sudden he locks all of your command buttons, and then that's how they introduce it to you, like, oh no, we can't do shit. And then that's how they show you how triple attacks go.
That was cool.
If you never played the original Super Mario RPG, like I'm sure many kids haven't, you would have never known that was never there. I felt like that didn't feel too shoehorned in at all. It wasn't Toad just stopping into the side going, hey, you want to see how triple attacks work? that thing I
Yeah,
hate.
you're right. They implemented it very elegantly, and yeah, if I hadn't played the original, I wouldn't. It wouldn't have seemed out of place at all.
So among all those other little treats, they like to include the post game for the people who have played the original version of the game, for the people who get real cocky and think they know everything there is to know about the base material. And Super Mario RPG is no exception. They required you to be paying attention to everything the game was doing along the way, in both the way things used to be and the way things were now. And in retrospect, it's literally not for everyone. But, a good chunk of what I was literally saying last year, oh man, I sure had fun with Pikmin 4, but I'd really like it to fight me back a little bit. But, here's Super Mario Wonder. It was a lot of fun too, but it really wasn't hard until the close to the optional level. This is what I fucking wanted. My time has come here. I wanted something to bite back in me, and it did. Even if it's just a remake of a game that I've played too many times, I wanted some boss fights that gave me chest hair, and I got it. And no, I don't really think any of them other than Balone were really expecting you to be of a certain level. With Punchinello, you had to be paying attention to which way the bombs were facing, because that was what they were doing there. With Booster, This took me a few tries. They wanted you to keep bopping the sniffets, and that took me some time too, because they'll keep helping him with his rebuilding the train shtick. So
you never had to go back and grind at all to get through any of these bosses?
Not necessarily. The remakes are all against the characters that lived. So you also refight the wedding cake, and if you basically have to. The wedding cake has a set amount of HP, but it's also lighting on every turn, every time it attacks, and if it lights all the candles, instant kill. And Jinx is also making sure you can pull off a triple attack, and then Johnny was making sure, hey, you know how having a party character boosts your stats? Well, you're going to need to do that for a one-on-one fight. So yeah, I could see how this is not going to be for Kevin. I could definitely see how keeping track of all this shit is not going to be for everyone.
The thing is, like, I just don't feel like it's necessarily a difficulty thing, because even the base game, like, the base game is very easy. And when I was a kid, that was totally fine, because it never stuck out that it was easy, but I certainly never got stuck on anything or felt like it was too challenging by any stretch. In subsequent playthroughs, as I've got older, the last time I played this before the remake was probably around 2016, 2017. It felt very easy, and at that point it stuck out. So if I don't have an issue with them increasing the difficulty, it's just felt that in the way they did it, it did feel very tedious, like mismatched. Maybe for the post game compared to the main part of the game. I wish they almost just would have given us a difficulty option to increase the difficulty, or add in some of these mechanics during the main part of the game, or just have them in the post game, but just not feel so tedious.
I don't know. I feel like it's the final exam of what I call the final exam of game design, where you're supposed to remember everything you were taught so far, and that really comes to a head with the Kulux rematch. You do all the others. You get the extra shiny stone. You open the door, because the first Kulux Max is suspiciously exactly like the first one, down to the sprite. You see him again. He's in 3D now. Holy shit. And the first thing he does is throw a Final Fantasy-esque meteor in your face. And if you haven't been grinding the whole time, and no one grinded that far the first time, that's a party wipe. But that's okay, because the Super Mario RPG remake lets you lets the reserve party members jump in. It was old-timey Final Fantasy as fuck, especially when he started counting down to the next meteor he was about to throw. I was too damn excited to figure my way out of it. I got smacked hard twice by the Kulux rematch before I carefully looked over my inventory and optimized the group, and then still jumping in to do it again, getting smacked real hard, and it took me 30 turns. I know this takes 30 turns because the game keeps track, and they taunt you to go in to do it again. Like, come in and try and see if you could do it in less. And I'm like, Nah, I'm done now. This is this was the hardest Mario RPG series fight ever presented. I did everything. I'm not that crazy, although I did look on YouTube and there are people that got it who are really, really, really good at the super jump who got it done in 4. God bless you, psychopaths. I'm not one of them. I haven't done 100 super jumps since 98 or so, and I barely did it then.
That's a young man's game.
I loved it, but talking to you, I get why that might have not been for you.
I mean, and I don't have anything to present as an alternative for what they should have added for content. In hindsight, probably nothing other than what they did. And I think when we were recording the show right after this was announced, that's what I said. I hope they give us some additional interesting content, but it's hard for me to come up with an idea for something that wouldn't feel like overreaching. If they added another 5 hours of new story post game with new locations and enemies, it would have felt like it would be really hard to implement gracefully without feeling tacked on. That would need to be its own thing, I think. So I fully acknowledge how hypocritical I'm being.
Super Mario RPG side stories, Bowser's Picnic. just sitting on Booster's Hill waiting for Princess Peach who never arrives for 30 minutes.
I mean, if they did do something the story, why, I would have been excited to play it, but I feel like we would have recorded the show and I probably would have bitched about it a little bit.
Oh, only a little bit?
Maybe the problem is I just like to bitch.
That can't be right.
That might be it. I also want to talk about the Beetle mini game because I spent so much time on that as a kid. I did not do that again with the remake, but I was pretty happy to see that they left it as originally presented because I was really, really curious what they were going to do with that.
Yeah, at first I thought it would have been nice to have like Beatlemania Deluxe as presented on the Nintendo Switch. But nah, I guess given all the other things they did to the 9s, I thought it would have been weird if we bought a game from a kid and it wasn't, as it was as we found it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess while we're here, we should talk about it. We would be remiss if we, as people who have played the games a few times, didn't bring up the weird name things. I already brought up how Psychopath became Mind Peak, but how'd you feel about running into Clay Morton in Mushroom Kingdom?
I mean, I didn't overthink any of that stuff. It didn't really bother me. I think it bothered you more than it bothered me because it's just, I guess maybe I look at this as kind of like this isn't the official Mario RPG, and I can just keep the real Mario RPG in my heart. You
sure you felt the same way when it turned out Spiritovich was behind everything in Seaside Town?
I mean, it felt so. What do you think the reason for the change is there at this point?
My first guess for the first one was that kids weren't going to get the Mac the Knife reference in 2023. Not that I couldn't imagine too many kids got it in 1996, but I don't know. I don't know. Spiritovich always makes more sense, but I don't know. Look, Ted Woolsey was doing his best. I think this was one of his last ones at Square. You can only do so much.
I don't know what the Mac the Knife reference is. Can you enlighten me?
Well, it's a band. I think it's a band. I'm losing my mind. Or a song. I'm losing my again. I'm losing track.
I know there's Return of the Mac. Is Return of the Mac what Mac the Knife is based on?
Probably. Andre's gonna kill us later for not being able to back my sources. Kill us in the comments later. Did you go to Great Guys Casino?
I didn't, and to be honest, I don't think I ever knew about that. I'm trying to remember if I did. The only way I would have known how to do that would have been from Nintendo Power, and so I maybe did it when I was a kid. If I read through how to do it in Nintendo Power, but I don't remember ever doing it. I sure didn't do it on my last Super Nintendo playthrough either.
Okay, so since it's rare to you, I'll briefly explain. Now that I'm looking at it now, like for my bazillionth time in a modern lens, I think this was an attempt to capitalize on playground rumors and things you'd have to buy the guide for. of the playground. Oh, if you do this and this and all this weird bullshit, you could bring this beloved character back to life. All that kind of shit we did forever before the internet became a real part of our lives. So there was this casino in Super Mario RPG, and you could play the whole game without ever finding it. Characters would hint how to get there. And after going through steps which involve going through Booster's Tower again to play a fake 3-card Monty game, you got to win 13 times in a row. He gives you the bright card, which lets you into the casino. But he won't tell you where it is, and you got to do other weird shit in Bean Valley to unlock it there. And then, and only then, do you finally get to go to the casino where there is a blackjack table, a slot machine, and Great Guy, one of the villains you fought at Booster Tower, who will play Look the Other Way with you, and you win that 100 times, and he gives you a prize. Yes, I did. I won 100 times again in the thing to get my star egg. Thankfully, you don't have to win 100 times in a row, because that would be a pain in the ass. But this time, the slot machine, it's still there, but you don't pay for it, or you do pay for it, but they just give you items in return. And blackjack is gone. They replaced that with a memory flip game a la Mario 3. So I know Europe. It's Europe. Let's not dance around it. It's Europe's fault we're not gambling in the Super Mario RPG game anymore.
Is that a thing? What is the reason for that? They jack up pretend gambling in things kids can play?
That's pretty much why they took it out of Pokemon however long ago. So that's the reason I've been assuming ever since, because they were dummying it out of Pokemon since the 4th set of games. And then by the time the 5th set came out, the 4th set had a thing where you played Minesweeper instead of slot machines and things in the casino for coins or for pretend coins or whatever. And then the 5th game's like, casino? What's that? I don't know what a casino is. I don't know. So yeah, no more of that. You got no kids games with gambling.
Now, to be fair, on a little side tangent, I don't want to sound like an old curmudgeon, but there might be some validity to that, because I can think of multiple times where as a kid, I almost got semi-addicted just to the gambling in those games, including in Pokemon Yellow in the slots, and Golden Sun, the fucking dice game where you have to throw the dice on the dice table when you get to there's the gambling themed festival. I spent a ton of time on that too. So I maybe I am lucky in hindsight that I didn't turn into a gambling addict as an adult. Maybe I learned that I'm predisposed towards gambling as a kid because of video games and avoided it because of that. Maybe it's a good thing.
In Golden Sun's defense, they stuck that pretty close to the end of the game where you really don't need your money anymore. Or am I thinking of the Lucky Medal thing? I don't know.
I think that's all in the same place where you throw the lucky medals and get the prizes from the dragon.
Oh yeah, the dragon. When you did go and everyone claps.
No.
Anyway, as opposed to Dragon Quest, where a lot of the best stuff is black behind gambling. Anyway.
Ooh, I'm getting the twitch to go to the casino right now, Steven.
Hang on. Let's take a break to look at DraftKings. No, I'm just kidding. Kevin, we got carte blanche to make Super Mario RPG 2. What do you do?
All right. I thought long and hard about this because I was definitely one of the people in the early 2000s, bitching on the official Nintendo forum. Where the fuck is Super Mario RPG 2? We've been robbed. I think the time for this has passed. I think if they would have done a proper sequel, N64 era, GameCube era, I would have been stoked. This game really feels like its own unique thing, and it can stand on its own. I would be very cautiously optimistic if they were going to go in that direction. But let's say they did pursue this years ago. I think the right thing to do would have been to make it Geno-centric and let it get really, really weird. Let's go home with Geno to the Star Road, and there'll be some really interesting new locales and enemies. And because we're in a completely different world, they can do whatever they want. And I would like them to let you build up your team of all new characters that we never met in the original Mario RPG. But 2/3 of the way through, major plot twist, the gang from Mario RPG shows up to supplement your party. Maybe I'm really feeling Golden Sun tonight, because what I'm thinking of is Golden Sun: The Lost Age, where the characters from the original game show up. You add them all at once, and you can swap all of them in and out of your party as you want. Now that's, Mario and Peach and Bowser and Mallow all show up, and now you can supplement your party with those characters as well. Okay, you know what? This is a great idea. They should make this now that I think about it.
See, I like your idea too, but I don't think they'd ever let you make a Mario RPG where you can't see Mario on screen. You'd get the whole internal testing people going, yeah, this is fun, but every few seconds, everyone should be asking, where's Mario? I don't see him anywhere.
Can we get away with it calling it Geno RPG?
I don't know, maybe.
Geno has the clout.
It's funny you say that because I'm in a similar boat of you, but I also feel like they're testing the waters with this and a lot of the other releases coming soon. Like, I'm honestly feeling like this next year is going to be testing ground for what they think they should be making more of. But anyway, it's also funny because I also have another Geno-centric idea. My story is that he does something unthinkable, very unforgivable unto his people. He makes a wish of his own to go on another adventure with Mario and friends. And reality does a lot of twisting and bending to make that shit happen, including splitting Geno's being into two. One to travel with old and new party members like Croco and Johnny, who, both will stand in for new classes like the old party did, like how Mala was a black mage and Mario was kind of a dragoon and, things like Thief and Berserker. And the other half to be the secret villain of the game. Well, you'll get hints along the way until you reach the end where you have the whole fairly cheesy but still poignant message to the fans, indirectly, of course. All things good or bad come to an end. And just because our adventure times together were brief, it didn't mean it wasn't special or didn't impact people, blah, blah, blah. And then, we realize Geno did the wrong thing and we have to put him down. And it'll be real sad and shit. Yeah, and you know what? Fuck it. Along the way, have him tease it along the outside world too. Have Sakurai put Geno in the new Smash Brothers too, and tease it there too. Like, Geno's just the doll. I wonder if that can't be. Anyway, here's how his moves work. And we just leave it be for another year and a half until the game comes out.
I like the idea of Dark Geno. Although when you said he does something unthinkable, like I was, immediately my mind goes to something much more morbid. I thought you were going to say like, Geno killed his mother in her sleep.
Well, I'm assuming it's a star person thing. They're not allowed to wish for themselves. So I'm assuming that's how it works.
Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty innocent then. Much better than mother killing. So do you think when you say they're testing the waters, like you actually think that there is a chance that they might do a direct sequel to Mario RPG? Do you think that's on the table at all?
I think it's very weird for them to put the effort into a game, into a very full remake like this without even considering it.
Yeah, I'd never thought of it. It just seems like it's so far after the fact. I mean, I also sure didn't think we were ever going to see Metroid Dread pop up in the 2020s. So what do I know?
It's been a very special generation for Switch times. I mean, which is why it drives me up the wall. There's nothing to play on Switch. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Look at all this shit. You don't have to play everything. But anyway, Kevin, you got anything else for everybody at home?
I think that's it for me.
Okay, that's great. If you want to listen to more things, you know how to find us. It's Fine Time Podcast on Twitter and Blue Sky and everything else. Don't forget to tell your friends. Have a good night, kids.
You've been listening to Fine Time.